Hello, I'm Laura Berlage of Arendale Tapestry Studio. In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you my method for cutting strips to make rag rugs. You can do it with a scissors, but I find that my hands get exhausted rather quickly, so I'm going to use a rotary cutter and a cutting mat. If you don't have that and you want to use a fabric scissors, go ahead, just take your time. I'm going to be demonstrating on a large piece of flannel, which works excellently for rag rugs. This was a former fitted sheet. So the first thing I did is I went around and I cut out all the seams and the elastic that was around the edge, so it's just a piece of fabric. You can also use polar fleece. This is some polar fleece that I've prepared into strips. And you can use wool fabrics, you can use tablecloths, there's all kinds of things that you can use. One thing I would stray away from are especially hard fabrics like blue jeans, especially for your first rug. And fabrics like this one, this was some kind of a velvet. And I don't know if you can see it, but the pile keeps peeling off in little flecks. And it tends to try to get everywhere. My worst case scenario with that was I did a chenille bedspread once. Bits of fluff everywhere. So I would stay away from that, especially for your first project. There are many different ways to cut strips for rag rugs. I like this NoSew method that I found in a rag rug book, and that's what I'm going to teach you today. For a rag rug, I typically like strips that are just a little wider than my thumb. That works well for fleece, for the flannel, but if you're doing polar fleece, you will want to cut your strips just a little thinner, or they won't work up the same width. So I'll get you started. So we'll come here to the edge, just a little wider than a thumb. Bring that across. Move my fabric over onto the cutting board. Flatten it out so I'm not accidentally cutting something I don't want to be cutting. So if you're a quilter, you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, where's the precision? But remember, this is a rag rug. It's going on your floor. You're going to walk on it. It's not a quilt, so don't worry about it. Alright, I've come to the other side of my fabric now. And this is where the magic happens. So it's a zigzag style of cutting method. So I'm going to come across and I'm going to stop 1 finger's width from the edge. So see, it's not entirely cut off. Then I'm going to start my second strip, go all the way to the edge with that cut so that it makes this zigzag like this. And I'll come back. All the way across, same width as before. And again, I'm going to stop. So I've got a finger's width left here at the end that's still attached, and I'll start my next strip. And I'm literally going to go back and forth like that all the way across the entire piece of fabric. When you have a bit that you've cut, you can start to wind it up in a ball. And I'll show you how to wind it when you get to one of those zigzag intersections. Winding, winding, winding. Okay, here we go. So I've got where my fabric is turning the corner. So I fold it down, and then I fold it back on itself. And then that makes this nice little pleat, and that'll weave nice and flat into your rag rug. So what I do is I cut for a while, and then I ball it up for a while, and then I cut for a while. If it gets too unwieldy, you can cut it into sections, but it is nice when you're weaving to have your strips as long as possible and not be stuffing a bunch of ends in. Alright, so we've come to the other intersection. I'll show you that again. Fold it down. Fold this part over. Fold it back on itself. You get this nice smooth intersection. And that's my method for strip cutting for rag rugs.